So the point I was trying to make with my video the other day about what happened in Nashville was that while we don't know what the motive was behind the incident, the fact that it was a transgender man targeting a Christian school could have something to do with it. Because lately, Christians have been not very kind to the LGBTQ plus community. It's super important to understand why these shootings keep happening. And hurt people will hurt people.
So a white cop keeps his knee on the neck area of a black man for over 8 minutes. The black man dies. The cop is tried, convicted, and sentenced to jail. And simultaneously, the former officer is investigated for the possibility of committing a hate crime due to public perception. So why isn't the same thing being considered here?
I call on this body, every member of this body, to condemn in the clearest of terms this hate crime against this community in Nashville. Today, I will introduce a resolution explicitly condemning this massacre as the hate crime that it is, and calling upon this body to condemn hateful rhetoric that leads to violence. Hateful rhetoric against religious believers, religious institutions, religious communities that leads to violence. This isn't speculation. This is a tragic fact. It has happened before our eyes, and we must condemn it.
First of all, my thoughts and prayers and condolences go out to the families who lost a loved one on that tragic day in Nashville. Once I heard about the situation from a coworker, that there was another school shooting, my first thought was, I hope that there are very, few casualties. Of course, just one casualty is one too many. But when you hear about a shooting, especially a mass shooting like this, you just know that unfortunately there are going to be casualties. And in this case, there were 6, 3 kids and 3 adults. It's very tragic, and may their souls rest in peace. And a special thanks goes to the heroes, the Nashville police, for their quick response and bravery. I salute you guys for that. Now, the next thing my mind went to was, how is the media going to angle this tragic news towards more gun control? As we know, the media is very, left-leaning, so their stories and narratives just ends up going in a constant circle to nowhere. But this shooting apparently has, was actually much different and has a unique angle. The news announced that the school shooter was actually trans. And on top of that, when I heard that the school that was shot up was a Christian elementary school, I was even more intrigued. I mean, how would the media spin this? They always protect the so-called trans community and at the same time denigrate Christianity. But now the tables are flipped here. So what would the media do?
The police are identifying the shooter as a trans woman, would actually be a trans man. So there's sort of a misidentification there, but this is all new. I'm just wondering, the identity of being a transgender person and also being identified as a woman, does this pose any sort of difference or difficulty for police? Because it's not typically a woman, regardless of how they're identifying.
Right. So each of these cases is always going to have a particular difference, right? Whether it's someone is angry at their father, or someone had something happen at the school. And this is a unique case, and we have to be sensitive about it to the extent that Audrey Hale identified as a woman. We do not see mass shooters who are female, especially in particular school shooting murderers. This is actually, I think, the first time that I can remember. Right? Each of these school shootings has motive and means. Motive goes to the particular person. What's their mental health situation? What happened at the school? Why did they choose that target? As Andrew was saying, what clues did they leave behind? What was their community seeing? And then the means. And then that's when you get the connectivity, right? That's when you start to see these are all starting to look the same, right? I sort of think now, like, we don't own guns in this country. Guns own us at this stage.
And tonight, while facts about the Nashville shooting are still surfacing, the Human Rights Campaign says trans people are much more likely to be victims of violence rather than perpetrators. Writing in a statement, regardless of the reason for this shooting, the use of violence is reprehensible, and we renew our call for common sense gun safety legislation.
So apparently nothing new here. You know, the liberal media have shown that they will go to any lengths to defend and continue to push their narratives. You know, use this tragic event to advocate for more gun control. And, you know, I always say, if the government and these bureaucrats, you know, can't figure out how to get the guns from the hands of the criminals, then don't come asking me for my guns. You get the guns out of the hands of the criminals first, then we'll talk. And then the second angle that they're approaching here is, you know, having more compassion on the trans community. And I hate when the media do this because, you know, as a black person, they do the same thing to us by painting us as victims so that the main underlying issue isn't addressed, which in this situation is mental illness. And that is not an attack on the trans community. That's actually an assistance. That's like when my kid doesn't want to take her medicine or even eat her vegetables, and myself and her mother, we have to figure out a way to get her to do it. You know, it's tough love, you know, and that's what this community needs. You know, tough love, not just to pander and, you know, placate to their feelings and delusions. Now, I'm not saying that this right here is a hate crime, but what I'm saying is that why are we not investigating this for the possibility that it may be a hate crime? You know, when you investigate, you go deeper into a particular trail that may lead you to an issue that actually needs to be addressed, or to a dead end with, you know, no facts and no evidence to support this being a hate crime. But you won't know until you actually investigate it. I mean, it was just announced that the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, stated that he will not launch a hate crime probe into the situation, which tells me that they don't want to find something that can potentially hurt the narrative. You know, anything, you know, that's LGBTQ plus should always be protected according to them, and anything Christian can be attacked and unabated. You know, I mean, even the New York Times tweeted about the confusion and correction over the shooter's pronouns. And also this trans lawyer, Alejandra Carabello, tweeted an insensitive statement about Tennessee lawmakers being more concerned about protecting kids from drag and gender affirming care as opposed to the AR-15 used in this massacre. It's just sick. As I mentioned earlier, Derek Chauvin, you know, he was investigated for a hate crime. Why? Because, you know, racism from a white man to a black man, you know, obviously it fits the narrative. And look, I was okay with the investigation for the hate crime against Officer Chauvin because, you know, you never know unless you look. You know, then the flip side to that whole case is the whole Waukesha massacre by Darrell Brooks Jr. I mean, this man, a black man, drove his SUV into a parade that killed 6 people, notably white people, and he was not investigated for a potential hate crime. So the double standard is crazy. You know what I mean? It's so crazy you can't make this stuff up. So more details on the shooter's manifesto will most likely come out, and I'm sure there'll be some red flags that investigators will probably, you know, be told to overlook, you know, in order to get the story to die away. You know, like the most recent mass shooting that was done by a non-binary at Club Q in Colorado Springs. You know, remember how that story faded away quickly? I mean, CNN even got a trans woman to write the eulogy on that story. Remember this?
Natalie, when we started the show, we got a little bit of news earlier that the attorneys for the shooter are now saying that the shooter is non-binary, and the shooter would like to use the pronouns they, them, and this is for the court in all court papers, and that's what Anderson Aldrich's attorneys are saying. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think that's complete ludicrous. I believe they're just saying that because they want to have the easy way out on this. That's really, really offending, especially being a transgender woman myself, that a male, which it was obvious with the mugshot, that's a man. That's not a non-binary person, because in no way, shape, or form could they appear as a woman the next day. It's really offensive to even hear that they're playing that role. And if they're non-binary, why would you go after the club where you feel safe at? Why would you do that to a community where you are welcomed in if you are non-binary?
Yeah, so we'll see as time goes by, because this narrative isn't to protect the trans community, but is to continue and to push, depravity and moral decay in our society. Hey, but people tell me, am I wrong to at least ask for a hate crime investigation? I mean, what am I missing here?